give you a ticket for that $10. Today's rally is designed as after the old-time concept of stump speaking and is not a forum nor a debate. Each candidate will be allowed 5 minutes to introduce themselves and lay out their platform. An additional 5 minutes has been allotted for questions, which I will moderate. Time will be strictly observed by our timekeeper, Ms. Phoebe Spangler, in the back of the room. Will be time for both the stump speech and the Q&A session. If the candidates will look toward the back of the atrium where a green light will switch on, show them. Mr. Elroy Broussard is with us, and we're going to give him an opportunity to speak. Mr. Broussard is running unopposed, but he serves us in District 3 position on the school board currently.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you and good morning to everyone. I applaud all of you for running for office. I am Elroy Broussard, School Board District 3 representative. I'm president serving in my 5th year. The easiest thing to do for a candidate who has never served in office is to say what could have, should have been done. Until you have to make a decision, then you become the target of the decision that you made. You could have done this, you could have said this. So whoever is going to be representing their office on next year in January, be careful of things we put together. To answer the question on the cell phone, I'm the only one voted not to have a cell phone. You don't need it. If someone's sick in your family, they call the student has to go to the office and get a release from the office to leave. There's no need for you don't have a job. You got to communicate through administration. They have to sign off for you to leave the campus, or they're responsible for your safety. I am the only one who voted to bring homework back. I was voted 8-1. Bring homework back. Because our kids are the ones who need the extra help. Everyone has homework. Each one of the candidates here today, had homework last night to prepare what has to be said today. Everyone has homework. One of the challenges that we have in our district, what I call District 3 and 4, still District 3 and 4, is that in the last 40, 50 years, we have been moving towards segregation. And we are segregated. Might be harsh words, but believe it, we are. We have a north side who has 650 students. A few years ago, we rezoned, and north side is supposed to have 1,300 students. But because of the school of choice, we chose to go elsewhere. We got somebody else's address to go across town. We all got cars. When I was a kid, there was only 2 cars in the parking lot. Everybody rode the bus. You jump on the bus brought you to the school you're supposed to go to. Now the parking lot at the high school is larger than the administration and teachers' parking lot. Everybody has a car. So you go to the school that you want to go to. Lafayette High is overpopulated. South Side is overpopulated. KDN High is overpopulated. North Side is underpopulated. I asked the administration to purge the list to see who was not supposed to be there. They did their homework. They got the right address. But if you look behind the paperwork, you see they're there illegally. But let's not worry about that. We can't worry about the 2,000 students they got at Southside. We got to worry about the 650 students at Northside. We've got to worry about the 400 now at Alice Boucher. Let's not look at Woodville. Do you quit looking beyond the fence and saying that the grass is greener? Do your community first. Bring your community up. That's what you do. That's the bottom line. I grew up in the area I represent. Went to Truman Elementary, went to Paul Broussard. Still friends with a lot of people that's in the area. So I work hard for my community. I sit on the school board and make decisions based on the needs of students in my area first. Not to say I don't do something for the students, the over 4,000 students, over 40,000 students we do have, 30,000 students we do have, but I've got to do the first one in front of me. We have rezoned, this question now, we rezoned it. We rezoned because of population. We've got to draw some lines to make sure that our school population student is balanced. A lot of people disagree with that, but it's something that has to be done. But I'm not in favor of redrawing line. I'm in favor of helping first person next door to me, then next door to him, then next door to him. If we do what we're supposed to do as parents, as teachers, as leaders, then all our schools will be equal. Quit running away from our kids. Support them. I was at the game last night. They didn't do well. But I was more disappointed in the lack of participation by the parents and the community than the outcome of the scores. The visiting team had more than the home team. So as we look out and blame everybody else for what we do not achieve, what we have not achieved, blame ourselves. We don't support our youth. We had a program, the JTPA program, some years ago. They did away with that because they claimed it's insurance. It's an insurance thing. We had a youth program, the Northeast Youth Association. We had, I think, 7 programs, and I was a youth athletic leader. We have done away with that. We're trying to bring it back. With the President Parks and Recreation, we're trying to bring it back. So we're trying to do some things, and don't get frustrated because it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen.
Okay,
Yeah.
would you like to take a few
Oh,
questions?
yes, fine.
Okay, all right, so Mr. Broussard is a sitting school board member.
Yes.
He will be with us for the next term.
Yes, I will.
Okay, so any questions at this moment? Okay, quickly.
No, I don't have a question this time.
Okay.
I want to commend you on all of your efforts and appreciate the fact that you are willing to stand up and speak the truth.
Thank you.
Truth is always going to be better than fiction.
Absolutely.
And I want to support you in reinstating some things in this community as far as the school, and also reinstating some new things like the education, because it is. Cell phones are a big thing. It's a distraction.
Yes, it is.
And we're not educating our kids. I'm a parent. I have 3 sons. I have one in grade school. I have one in college. I have one in middle school. So I'm always particular about my own children and their education and their cell phone, where that's located. I mean, you don't need it in the classroom in your locker, because I've already made. I remember when my son was in high school, I made trips to his school to make sure that things were in place. So on that note, what do we do to encourage parent participation? That's the biggest thing, is to hold these parents accountable for their children. Because if your kids are talking back at home and the person at home, they're doing the same thing at school. So I would think that you guys should put something in place to hold parents.
Well, one of the things I tell the principal and the teachers to do, to applaud whatever, whatever happens. When someone has a fight at school, it's all over the news. It's all over the news. But you don't showcase success. And that's our problem. We've got some good things happening in school. But it's a secret. And that's one of our biggest problems. The game last night, whoever lost last night, participation is the key. but we need to applaud our students, whether you're an athlete or you're academic excellent, you've got to showcase success. We've got to get away with all of this negative. We blow the negative clean out of proportion, and the success is never saved. So we've got to start applauding our kids for whatever happens. If a young man and a young lady goes on to a perfect 4.0, it should be front page news.
It should be.
But we harp so much on failing that everybody, what one kid says, it's fashionable to be dumb. That's the saying. It is fashionable to be dumb. We got to change that. But let me say before they take the mic from me, I've been married for 47 years. Did I say it wrong? 4 kids, 13 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids, all products of public school. So I've been in the community all my life.
You got one more question
All
from
right.
Teresa.
I
You're
don't know anything about this, but do you think low wages has something to do with the lack of participation of our parents?
Well, it's yes and no. Some of the parents, if you engage them, they're willing to go forward and be a part of it, but not all parents feel comfortable being a part of the child education because they don't have much education themselves. But a teacher, those of us who've been around, plays more of a role in the student's life than some of the parents. The neighborhood, and somebody said it takes a village to raise a kid. That's the old cliche. Worn out. It's worn out. When I was a youngster, when Mr. Ford was a youngster, if you were a successful person of color, you lived in Truman, Visay, Macomb, Wyandotte, you couldn't go to River Ranch. So we've seen success in our neighborhood. But now, and I applaud anybody who's successful who want to move to River Ranch or Bendale Garden. I applaud, but come back home and show the kids what success looks like. Quit running away from the kids. So to answer your question, a teacher or a friend play just as important a role as a parent.
Okay, very quickly. One more question.
Okay, you just said that a teacher plays like the most important.
I say
role,
important, yeah.
A important
Yeah.
role in what have you done to ensure that the teachers' voices have been heard to inform your decisions as a school board?
We have, since you're a former teacher, you know the displaced teachers winds up at schools in District 3 and 4. The principals does not have a say-so as to what teachers they get. We have changed that rule. You as the principal get to select the teachers because you are held accountable for your failure or success. That's one thing. And I am fighting to get more teachers that look like you and I in our schools. I'm not saying that a young lady coming out of UL, 23, 24 years old, is not successful. They're all good teachers. I never met a bad teacher. I met teachers who are different, but it's important that our kids see people that look like us successful, and we're pushing for them. It's a hard job. All right?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us. I do want to also thank Mr. Broussard for his service and his continued service, and I also want to acknowledge that we lost him. The DPEC lost him to the school board. He served the DPEC well and ably, and I also want to put a slight call out. We need more people who represent the community. We don't have enough people of color on the DPEC. Can we get some of you guys to come help us? Beautiful man for last, okay. Okay, this is Mr. Abraham Rubin, and I'm so sorry. I'm gonna give you an extra minute.
I'm sensitive too.
No, we're gonna give you an extra minute, okay.
Okay, how y'all doing? I'm the forgotten son here, okay? All right, my friends call me AB. My name's Abraham A.B. Rubin. I'm running for Parish Council in District 5. I was born and raised in the city portion of Lafayette, When I got married, we moved to the outskirts of the Lafayette Parish area. They call it the unincorporated area. That's why I can only run for the parish council. So I've been born and raised my family in the district that I'm seeking to serve at this particular time. I've been working at UPS now for 31 years. I've been married for 28 years. I have 4 lovely children, 1 adorable granddaughter who's spoiled as I don't know what. You know, I've been in this community for a very long time. And I've been participating in this community for a long time. Some of the issues you were referring to, people are talking about what they're going to do. I'm already doing those things, man. You know, when someone's getting murdered, we have the balloon and we have the kumbaya and everything. We need to do something before that. And that's what I've been doing all my life. I used to teach martial arts at the local rec center with Mr. Peter over here. And what I would do, if a child couldn't afford the classes for that month, I would go to the local, whoever was in charge of the rec center at that time. Hey, look, this kid can't afford it. We get some elderly people in the neighborhood and say, hey, look, they're gonna come cut your grass. And that would be their dues for the month. That was to keep them in there so we don't lose that child. I have a success story from that too. We got a young man right now, he's downtown, and he works downtown, keeping downtown neat and everything. And he's also teaching a track team during the summertime. And he does it for free. And he said, you know, Sensei, what they would call me, Sensei, you know why I do that? Because you never gave up on me when I went in and out of jail. And I never gave up on that young man. And he's a success story today. I'm catching the free cheese thinking about it. You know? And I'm proud to say that I played a part in his life. Other things that I've been doing, I've put on an Easter egg hunt. 19 years now. Okay, next year will be 20 years that I've been doing it. And I always tell people the first year we started with 1 bicycle, 1 tricycle, and 1 scooter. This year we gave away at least 75 bikes, at least 30. These are little 7-inch tablets, 300-400 Easter baskets. Every child ate chips, hot dogs, sodas. You know, we had pony rides. Bottom line, it was a great success. And the thing that I'm telling you guys, I'm committed. Anything I put my hands to, I'm committed to making it happen. I don't just give up on it. I don't give up on the kids because they are our future. And I don't give up on the elderly, which is our past. I have been to every retirement home on the north side of Lafayette, Breaux Bridge, Karen Crow. There's even one on Evangeline Thruway that's no longer open. I still have VHS video of when we went there and we took care of them for Grandparents' Day. Because you know that is a national holiday, which is in this month. I think it's this weekend, as a matter of fact. Yes, you know, we would go there, bring Zydeco people there and music, and we take care of them. Y'all would be surprised how much these people enjoy that. We can't forget about them. They put them in there, and when they come there, I have to say this too though. I'm still trying to figure which one of them old ladies pinched me on the backside, you know, because they just have fun. They just want to be entertained by somebody, you know, and it's so fun to see. It's so rewarding to see their faces when there's music being there, people, and you go grab them there in a wheelchair and you're dancing with them. Man, it's a wonderful thing, you know. The thing about me, I just enjoy what I'm doing. To serve the community, it comes very natural for me. I can't come up here and prep to do this. I know Mr. Elroy said, we did homework last night. I can't do homework for this. Because everything you hear right now, it comes from right here. Because that's who I am. What you see is what you get 24/7. I don't have to make up anything because this is what I'm doing right now. You know, when I say being proactive, I figure if we get your child in elementary and show them how to love and how to be loved, well then that crime rate that y'all were talking about, that'll drop. Okay? That's why I helped adopt Alice Boucher with the assistance of Mr. Elroy. And we go to Alice Boucher all the time, every year. For the last 6 years, we give donuts for the first day of school and a lot of other things throughout the school year. Now it's catching on. I think we served like 3 or 4 different schools this year for the first day of school. And before I pass, I would like to see people like you guys picking up a school in your area so that we can show these kids that they are loved and they can love back. You know, I'm gonna give you one more story before I leave. I was going to give Pops the little push-up popsicles. I do that for the last day of school, you know, it's real hot. So I was in the office at Alice Boucher, setting it up with the principal. And this young lady passed by, you know, and you can see she don't have very much. And when she passed me up, she stopped and looked at me and gave me a big hug. And right then and there, you needed a straw to pick me up off the floor because I was putting it in her hands. Now, do I remember the child? No, I didn't. But evidently somewhere during the year, I affected her. And she remembered that. And she showed love. Why? Because I showed her love. Okay? And that's what I'm all about. That's why I'm running for this office, because I love my community. My slogan is, from the community, for the community. That's not a political line. That's who I am. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Okay, I apologize again for leaving out Mr. Rubin, but we're gonna...
I'm special.
You can't be first, it's best to be last.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay. All right, does anybody have a question for Mr. Rubin at this point? Okay, go over here.
I didn't even have to look at you.
I know. Peggy, you should just start over there.
I'm gonna fool you guys, I'm not asking a question, I'm gonna take the time to commend you.
Yes, ma'am.
On the work that you do. And you are absolutely right. Children need to feel loved and special and that they matter at a very young age. It's that self-esteem that brings them through the trauma.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I think we need more programs for these kids too. Keep them out of the streets.
There's 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
In short,
Yes, ma'am.
first is a statement, and thank you for the things that you do and continue the collaborations that we have.
Thank you,
for the
ma'am.
community.
Thank you very much.
And city or parish, I went to 3rd grade. Explain what's your place where you're running, and is it parish, is it city? What's
Okay.
going on in that?
All right. That's like the $1 million question nowadays. Okay. The thing about it, I'm running for parish council. All right. My district will consist of, we're going to use the new numbers, okay? My district will consist of all of City Council, District 5, and right about half of District 1, okay? So that's the parish. Now, let me make you understand something. A lot of people don't know this. If you're in the city, you will vote for 2 people. You're going to vote for a city councilman and a parish councilman. Now, if you're in what you call an unincorporated area, like myself, I stay off the Broad Ridge Highway, they call it Derby Heights. Up there you go, my neighbor right there. What we're going to do is, you will only vote 1 time. You're going to vote for a parish councilman. You will not vote for a city councilman. Only in the unincorporated area. But all city, you're going to vote twice. City and parish. I know a lot of people that know that one. Yes, ma'am. I like that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Okay, anybody else have a question for Mr. Rubin?
We go back there.
Okay, back here.
With all the work that you've done in the community,
Not so
I felt like the
close.
Matrix with that one.
Yeah, use it, but not so close. Just not so
sorry.
close. Ask him to use it. Ask him to use it, but not so close.
The reason I haven't sought public office before is because God was grooming me for this. I'm just like David. David didn't know he was being ran to be a king. I didn't know I was going to be a leader. He put me in the field doing the things that I've done. Okay? So now when it's time to slay the giant, I'm already equipped. I got my armor all over me. I'm protected.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm sorry. That's just me.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Any more questions? I got time.
Yeah, he does.
Nah,
Anybody
I'm
else? Okay. All right. Maybe they're ready to eat.
That's what it is. Manger.
You know that you have a timer at the back, green while you're talking.
Good morning. Come on now. Good morning. One more time. Good morning. This is supposed to be a political rally. These are Democrats here driving up. My name is Preston Castille. I'm a candidate for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, District 8. I grew up here in Acadiana. I heard Mr. Broussard talking about Northside. I will tell you, if you haven't had Mr. Elroy Broussard's pork stew, you're missing a treat. So he should bring some for everybody because it is absolutely delicious. So I will say I grew up here and it has been a wonderful journey for me. I started kindergarten at Port Barry Elementary, lived on the bayou. When my parents divorced, we moved to Opelousas. I lived on South Street and went to South Street Elementary, and then we moved again to Overton Street a year later, and I ended up at Crestwell Elementary, and then one more time at Pleasance High School, where I graduated from high school as a product of the St. Landry Parish public school system. And that school system really provided me an incredible opportunity. Because it equipped me with the tools, it allowed me to have a full scholarship to go to Southern University. And now a little kid from the projects of Opelousas and from the bayous of Port Barry to get a full scholarship to one of the top HBCUs in the country was quite a feat. And I always wanted to be a doctor, but somewhere along the way, I decided that there are other ways that I can serve the community and help other people. It was actually my chemistry professor that said, look, there are other things you could do. I became student body president. I went on, graduated in economics, and I worked in Washington, D.C. as an economist. I came back and I went to law school at Tulane in New Orleans and got an opportunity to work for the last 25 years with one of the biggest law firms in the state. I had an opportunity also to serve as a judge for about 10 years. So I got a chance to see that school to prison pipeline up close and personal. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not pretty. It hurts me to see young black boys and girls and white boys and girls to leave from the school system and end up in the criminal justice system where they're lost forever. I had an opportunity 18 years ago to get called by LSU to teach law school. I taught there for 8 years. I've been teaching for the last 16 years at the Southern University Law Center. I currently teach education, law, and policy. And some folks will say, well, why does a lawyer want to be on Bessie? Well, one of the things is that Bessie makes policy. It makes laws. It deals with the legislature. It deals with all the things that affect our children. I heard so many people talk today about poverty and the disadvantaged children and the economy as if those things, well, they actually pointed out that those things impact education. The education system does not operate in a vacuum. And when people come to you and say, well, it's all about curriculum, it's all about rigor, it is not. It is so much more. One of the things I talk about with my platform is that we've got to reach beyond the classroom, because when little Johnny doesn't eat at night, when little Johnny doesn't have lights, when little Johnny doesn't have clean clothes, when little Johnny doesn't have shoes on his feet, little Johnny has a little difficulty, and Sally, learning the next thing. I believe it all ties together. And I think it's myopic to look at only the education system as if it is the only system in our state. It is important that we work with every particular part of this state. One of the things I focus on is teacher pay. The only way you get a pay raise for teachers is you got to have money. Bessie doesn't appropriate money. You got to work with the legislature. You got to work with the governor. You got to work with every part of this state. You got to work with business and industry to ensure that we have enough money and resources to pay our teachers. If we pay our teachers a fair wage, $1,000 is great. I applaud the legislature and the governor for doing that. But ladies and gentlemen, can we do more? Can we do better? Can we do better than $1,000? If we want to compete, if we want our children to compete with Texas and every other state in this union, and every other kid around this planet, we've got to have the best and the brightest. We've got to keep them in this state. We've got to attract them. We've got to retain them. We can't lose them to Georgia. We can't lose them to Mississippi. We need them here in our state, giving our absolute best to our children in our parish. This is a huge district, and I cross 14 parishes, and I see little poor kids all over, just like me. I remember walking around on a bayou, never thinking I'd ever get out of poverty. But education, the power of education changed my life. The power of education changed my life, where I would have never, ever thought that I would have the opportunity to do the things that I've done. Ladies and gentlemen, I have so much more to say, but I've got the red light back there. And that little nice lady here is about to give me the hook. I will tell you this. My name is Preston Castille. I'm number 50 on the ballot. I'm a candidate for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. I'll say one last thing. There are 18 candidates running for Bessie. And I was shocked that people talk about this. And Sally, you said, why don't we have more people of color on DPEC, more black men? I happen to be the only black male candidate running out of 18 for Bessie. There are no black men elected to Bessie. Our black men, our men of color need to step up. And I've chosen to throw my head in the ring. Bessie pays $0. It's a volunteer position. But our children need all the help that they can get, and I'm here to serve.
Well, don't go anywhere, because you do have some time for questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Castille? Right over here, Peggy. And please speak into the microphone. Who's got the microphone? Okay. Please speak into the microphone so we can keep our sound consistent, but don't speak too closely, and keep your questions concise so we have more time for the answer.
I appreciate you throwing me back and ready to run. My question is, what role do you feel that the educators touching the students every day have in educational policy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And let me applaud you for throwing your hat in the ring. It's great to have young people step up to the plate as well. You know, my wife is Marion Caille, and so many of you may know some of the Cailles that grew up here and in the Karen Crow and the Lafayette area. And she's a middle school math teacher, and she had a job where she worked for 15 years at LSU and got an opportunity to have her dream job. I'd like to have that dream job, frankly, but you know, one of us gets to have all the fun sometimes. She would disagree with me whether that's all fun. But I will tell you this, I think that the teachers, you know, the Lavonia Thomases, the Raymond Casimirs, those people who poured into me. So I didn't make it where I've gotten because I did it on my own. I didn't just pull myself up by my bootstrap. It is giving the teachers the power to understand when I was falling behind in algebra and geometry, that someone needed to take me and dust me off and say, hey boy, you need to get it together. There was a lady named Miss Tupra. When I was in the Upward Bound program at UL, from Pleasance to UL, I was in the Upward Bound program. Mrs. Tupra was this little short lady from Africa. And we didn't have a real strong math program at the time. And I started in the Upward Bound program, and I took my ACT test at the beginning of the summer, and I made an 8. You heard me? Go ahead, you can laugh. I made an 8 at the beginning. Miss Tupra said, come on now, we've got to do a whole lot better than this. And she put her arms around me also. And she worked me day and night, weekends, morning. As much, I didn't know I could work so hard. And I was a good student. I graduated valedictorian ultimately from my high school, but I made an 8, one of the top students. At the end of that summer program, because she poured into me, and she had the ability to do that, I took another practice ACT at the end of the summer. This is just one summer. I went from 8 to a 28 in one summer. It wasn't that I didn't have the capacity, and a lot of our children have capacity, But if we can reach them where they are, wherever they are, if they're here, reach them there. If they're here, reach them here and bring them up there. And teachers do that. They did it for me, and I appreciate it. They made me what I am today, and I think people like you and every other educator in this room are on the front line. And we've got to make sure we reward them. We've got to make sure that we are strategic about it. We can't just say we want to give teachers more money. We can't say we just want these things. They don't happen magically. You got to have a relationship with the legislature and the governor and every other part of the state. Thank you for your question.
We have another question right here.
Yes, thank you so much. My question was, when and why do you, where do you, your experience come from? But you've expressed that. And the question is, how do you know about the people here in this area? You have the passion, you have the experience, you have the place, you know. So if we can remember that we need people that know and have experience so that they can know what the children need, all children, not just some children. So my question is, how can you bring that fire and that compassion and passion to that Bessie board?
That's a wonderful question. Let me say a few things. Bessie District 8 is 14 parishes. 14 parishes, 340,000 people. So it's great for me, first of all, to come home to run, because coming back to Acadiana is special for me. Growing up in St. Landry and in Lafayette and in St. Martin and seeing, it's like a reunion every time I come back over here. It really is fantastic. But, some of you may know that I was the national president of the Southern University Alumni Federation. I got to, thank you, yes. I'm gonna wear my red for the UL game today, but I'm gonna have my blue and gold hat on. I want you all to know today as well. They play in Memphis. But the key is connecting with people and having the ability to do that. I served as the president of the Baton Rouge Bar Association, which is the majority white bar association. I was the president of the Louis St. Martinet Society, which was the black bar association. I've been involved with all types of schools. I was the president of the Southern Lab School Foundation. When that school was on the brink of closure, as a volunteer, we said, let's, as volunteers, make sure that that school doesn't close. Volunteers put together a program that went from that school losing $1 million a year to earning $1 million a year in profit. Because volunteers with all sorts of skills, because it doesn't take just one skill set to solve this problem. It's someone with passion, but someone that can bring all of these skills together and bring people together. And I've worked for the last 4.5 years bringing people from all across the country, from Los Angeles to New York to DC to Chicago, all together to help fight for Southern University in my role then. We went down to the legislature, we lobbied. I testified before the House Education Committee. I proposed legislation. I testified before the Senate Education. I proposed legislation. The same thing needs to happen, and that's what needs to be brought to the Bessie board. Bessie board is redundant. I know that for those who are educated crowd, but I just say that because it's commonly referred to as Bessie board.
That's right.
But it's Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. But the key is that all of those agencies work together. I teach education, law, and policy. And it is a wonderful class. It is a wonderful opportunity to dig into the history of how we got here, because sometimes we forget from whence we came and how we got here. And when we don't know from whence we came, we don't always know how to get and go forward. We can't survive in the present. So it's important to be able to do all of those things and bring us all together and all of our citizens for the benefit of education and, frankly, for the benefit of our children, who obviously are our future. Thank you, ma'am.
So much. And I do want to say that we do have Upward Bound at UL. It's still in Griffin Hall. My office is...
Wonderful program.
That's right. It's a wonderful program. Thank you so much. Okay, it's not, we're out of time. We have to move on. I'm sure that
I'd just love to be able
Mr. Castille will take these questions up with you on the floor. It's a great question. And sir, I'm sure that Mr. Castille wouldn't mind speaking to some people, right? Okay.
I don't.
Okay, but we're gonna, no, I'm for Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, District 8.
You know about the lights in the back, right? They're timing you with the lights in the back. When you start talking, they'll be green, and then when they turn yellow, you have 30 seconds to wrap up, and then red is stop, and then we'll take questions after. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Let's try that. Greetings, everybody. Awesome, awesome. Well, my name is Shakisha Webb Scott, and I'm also a candidate for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, also known as Bessie Board. I'm also running for District 8. So as you guys know, Bessie is the state board for all of the public schools throughout Louisiana, responsible for developing and upholding policies that govern all of our state schools throughout Louisiana. I'm also an educational leader in my community. I have trailblazed what educational opportunities and experience look like for the kids in my community for thousands of children that have impacted and have gone on to do great things. However, it's not enough. We must do more. If we want to truly transform the way kids impact our community and make sure that they are able to compete not only nationally but globally, we have to make sure that consistency occur from year to year. For the last 5 to 6 years, policies have been inconsistent at the Bessie Board. If you can remember, about 5 or 6 years ago, we started with GLEs, the grade level expectations. Then it changed to Common Core. Yeah, I think it's a cell phone down here. Okay. So after that, they said, no, let's not do that. Let's change it to, we're not going to call it Common Core, we're going to call it something else. However, every year that the expectations and the standards change in our state, our kids fall behind. Our teachers aren't trained. They're confused on what to do. And even though 5 years may not seem like a long time in adult world, that's enough time for a child to go from kindergarten to 5th grade. That's their whole foundational years of learning. And we all know that 1 year of bad teaching or a bad instructional year, a child can take 3 to 5 years to catch up or get ahead. So therefore, we must do more with our policies. I'm in the trenches doing this work every single day in K-12 education. I'm working with our kids, I'm working with our teachers. We also need to look at what teacher certification look like. I've seen certified teachers who have years of experience that have been doing some have been doing our kids a disservice, some have been doing great things for our kids. And I also see teachers that don't have a certification, but are educational heroes, but simply because they can't pass a test. We need to make sure that we support our teachers to get certified, to be able to get the credentials what they need, to make sure that highly effective and certified teachers are in every classroom throughout the state. Because that's going to make a difference whether our kids soar or regress. We have to make sure that we have highly qualified and certified teachers. And that's going to come with the support. It's going to come from policy and working together. Sometimes money and throwing more money is not the answer. We need to make sure that the money we allocate is being appropriated correctly, and we do need to change the formula where our teachers are making more. They are being supported. They are getting the professional development they need to be supported and able to do their job. When you look at class size, we need to reduce the teacher class size, but that also comes with facility. We need to expand our facilities to make sure that we can accommodate the additional classes. And in order to get the new facilities, that requires funding. So all of this is stemmed from policy. But if we make sure that the correct policies are in place, the correct funding is in place, we can do more. Again, my name is Shakisha Webb Scott. I'm in the trenches doing this work every single day. I'm working with our kids. I'm working with our teachers. Now I want to make sure I work with the other Bessie Board members to make sure that we impact policy the way that it needs to look, that reflect the kids that are in the classroom daily, that we see daily. It makes a difference when you understand what's going on, what teachers are going through. I respect all of the everybody that's running, but I always say this. If we want to set the rules for all public school kids throughout the state, we have to know more than just instruction. We have to know more than law and legislation. We have to know more than finance. You have to have all of those moving parts. If I wanted to go run for a judge or be on the doctor's board, I could not do it because I'm not a lawyer. So we need to value education and make sure that we put on our Bessie board someone who's knowledgeable on exactly what's going on in K-12 education, doing the work. My name is Shakisha Webb Scott. I'm number 53 on the ballot. I would appreciate your support, and if you want to learn more about my platform, I'll be happy to take any questions, or you can find me on Facebook or scottforbasic8.com.
Don't go anywhere. Okay.
Thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause, and then we have now, you get to ask your question this time. Could we get the microphone over here?
I just told Preston I would have asked this question of everybody, even though I may not answer any questions when I come up there. But it's all that all y'all should be able to get out of the park. And it's a fair one for anybody that proposes to do anything at all with education. For quite a number of years, I personally have been urging legislators, even the last time I ran for to consider sponsoring legislation that would have given the Attorney General the ability to renegotiate that two-lane legislative scholarship bill that was cut many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. In a way that would have two-lane instead paying to the state, okay, about 78% of the value of that two-lane scholarship. And instead take that money and put it into the TOPS program, where it would benefit all students instead of just students essentially chosen by the legislature. I know it's the legislative incumbency advantage, and that's the main reason they don't want to touch that program. But as bad as we need money in education, I want to know whether my people who are running for Bessie would at least support something like that if somebody ever had to heard.
Thank you for the question. Would you like to take that? Would you like to address
Okay. So I want to make clear that Bessie does not develop legislation. They can advocate for certain legislation, but once bills are passed, Bessie is responsible for developing that policy for all of our public schools to that governs whatever legislation or bill that had just passed. So I am a proponent of any creative way to be able to increase our funding to pass through our schools. I also spearheaded in my community, in the Baker's Acre community, bringing and building from the ground up a $8 million facilities, cutting edge technology facility that has not been done in 30 years for the children in that community. But it was not done through the traditional ways. However, my kids, I could not let them wait. We have to be creative in how we increase funding so that they can have the best. Environment impacts learning. All of those different moving parts impacts learning. So when you have more classrooms and cutting edge and technology classrooms, you're able to reduce that teacher-student size in the classroom. So when you have funding, you're able to do more, but we also need to take a closer look of the funding that we currently have. How is it being managed? When I talk about inconsistencies, I'm seeing where funding is wasted. When we talk about curriculum changes from the State Department and Bessie Board from year to year, I literally had to watch schools throw away in the trash hundreds of thousands per school for curriculum, that nothing was wrong with the curriculum, but because the State and Bessie Board says we're not no longer using this, throw it all away and spend $100,000 more per school on more. That's money that could have gone to teachers. That's money that could have gone to professional development. We have to better manage the money that's currently being allocated versus more and more and more. The money is there, but if we don't put policies in place and accountability factors to make sure that what we have is being spent and used properly, our kids are going to suffer and pay the cost.
We have another question, another concise question.
Okay. Paul Road and Northside. Paul Road and Northside. What are your plans on redeveloping that, especially those that are
I can't hear you.
A little closer, there you go.
You're right. So, what are your plans to invest in those two schools that me personally I know need remodeling and technology? Because that's not a district. It's still okay. Well, if that was in your district, what would you do?
So what's your philosophy?
For schools that need better buildings, access to technology, actually that is a number one issue that I want to take on. And there's ways for districts to do that. They just don't have the knowledge or resources to know how to tap into that federal funding to get that. District 8 is composed of mostly rural districts. East Baton Rouge Parish is pretty much the only suburban type urban parish that's part of this district, but mostly it's rural. And most of those areas I am familiar with. When you talk about the Felicianas or St. Landry Parish, West Baton Rouge, they're facing the same challenges. Buildings that are falling apart, limited access to internet. They're having problems with getting companies like Cox and other internet providers to put towers out in the rural areas so that they can get a strong signal to use their technology and resources inside of their classrooms. That has to change. Children don't pick where they are born at and are raised at. They should have the same access to technology and resources and new facilities than any other child that lives in a more urban district. The problem is the MLP funding. If you live in a rural district, the funding you get per child is about half of what the funding per child is in Baton Rouge or New Orleans. That should not be the case. Those kids are not half less valued or valued 50% less. They should have the same opportunity to learn the same. So we have to look at how we're funding per pupil. It should be equally allocated so that all children across the state can have access to equal resources and an equal high quality education.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, wait.
Oh.
Give me a little hand.
Okay,
Thank you for coming. Okay, we do have a couple more for Bessie Ford. Next is Timmy Malasa, did I say that right? All right, Timmy Malasa is running for Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, District 7.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am. Hi, guys. I'm Timmy Malasa. I am not running against the last two speakers, thank goodness, because they were both extraordinary speakers. I'm very, very impressed. My district, and I brought, every good teacher should always have a visual aid. So this is my district. It goes all the way from Vermilion and Lafayette, and then west all the way to the Texas border. There's a little piece of this north side area that's been cut out, and then there's a little section of St. Landry Pocket where we go into. So I don't know where you guys fit into that. I hope that the map they brought will help you to see that. I am a retired school teacher. I taught for 30 years in Vermilion Parish at Kaplan High School. I taught public speaking, I taught theater, I taught English, and I taught debate. I have 4 sons, and some of you may know the oldest 2, because they're both Lafayette City policemen. They're both sergeants, and this is their area that they protect and serve. So I'm very proud of them. But their last name is not Malasa. Their last name is Swear, because when I was 30 years old, my husband passed away. So I learned quickly how to stand up tall and how to stand on my own feet and take care of myself and 2 children. And it's a lesson that you never forget, and it's a lesson that you take with you through life. I was very fortunate a couple of years later to find a very handsome cowboy who made me laugh, and together we have 2 children. So I have 4 boys, all products of the public school system, but all diverse as well. Number 3 is a music star. He lives in Austin. Number 4 is a PHI helicopter pilot. who is dyslexic. So I know about parents who struggle with students, their own children, who come home and they have 3 hours of homework because they didn't pick it up as quickly as the other kids in their class. We've been there. But I also know that each one of those students is just as capable, because my Zach flies one of the most complex helicopters in the Gulf right now for PHI, and I'm very proud of him that he is capable to do that. But that gave him a drive as well. My mother was from Roswell, New Mexico. She was Cherokee Indian. And my dad met her when he was stationed in Roswell during World War II. So she taught us, he brought her back over here, she was his war bride, and she taught us to stand up. When you think something is wrong, you have two choices to make. You can turn your back on it, or you can stand up and make a difference. So around Easter Sunday, I had a conversation with my oldest granddaughter, who just completed her first year of teaching at Eaton Park in Abbeville High School, at Abbeville Elementary. And I asked her if all of her students were going to be promoted. And she said, yes, Grandma, but I have two that I think should not be. And that answer started this whole ball rolling for me. And when you spoke about that pipeline from 3rd grade to prison, it just resonated. Because those two children that she is being forced on to go to 3rd grade, they could not read or write a single sentence. They were not at the level they should be at the end of 3rd grade. And because the way our BESI board, our current BESI board has set up this system, everybody is socially promoted. And so now those two little 2nd graders, her concern was they're going to be in 3rd grade and they won't be able to read or write a complete sentence. And then 4th grade and then 5th grade. And this is that pipeline that you guys are speaking of. And that's where it has to stop. We have to take some of this money that we're throwing away on testing, and we have to put that on that early education. I spoke to a principal this week from Iowa Elementary School. He said for 3 weeks they've been in school in session. Of those 3 weeks, they have spent only 2 days teaching. The other 13 days were spent testing. That is absolutely ridiculous. We test them at the beginning of the year, and then we test them again at the end of the year. So if you add that, those of you that watched Jethro and his mathematics on the Beverly Hillbillies, that's 6 weeks of testing. Our school year is a 36-week school year. 1/6 of that class time is spent testing. So you see, the focus is no longer on education and knowledge in that classroom. The focus has become on assessment, and that's what our BESI board, our current BESI board, has set up the policy to be. We have teachers who have been given scripts, and they are forced to read those scripts. The heart and soul has been taken out of those classrooms, and those 3rd graders that cannot read or write a single sentence are the ones who are being hurt the most by it. It's really time for us to flip this whole BESI board. The last 2 speakers are excellent candidates, and I applaud them for their passion. But we need to have educators on that board who understand what's happening in that classroom, because those people that are running that BESI board are so far removed from that classroom that they don't understand what they are doing to that child sitting in that desk. So early childhood education, we've got to get them in kindergarten and 1st grade, and we've got to get them reading and writing on level.
Thank you so much. Now, wait. Okay. Wait. Now, I'm going to ask the first question.
Oh, great.
I'm going to ask you, a couple of people have spoken about the pipeline.
Yes.
Right? The classroom to prison pipeline. And I'm familiar with the, if you can't read, 1st through 3rd, you learn to read. And then 4th on, you read to learn. So could you please tell us why that's important and how that feeds that pipeline?
Absolutely. That child's brain is very willing to take new information in the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old span. But it slows down, and they don't quickly formulate as well after that. So we have got to be able to reach them at that early age and engage them. I think smaller classrooms, a para maybe in each one of those classrooms, but we've got to be able to identify those students that are not reading and writing, because that's where progress will be made. We are 49th in the nation. We were 49th in the nation 10 years ago when John White was brought in to reform the education system, and all that's done is proven that it doesn't work.
So to be clear, what happens if they can't begin to read to learn at that 4th grade level?
At that 4th grade
No
level,
more instruction, right? To learn to read.
they will become discipline problems. They will become frustrated quickly, and they will start skipping school. They will be absenteeism. We can stop all of that. We can really make an impact if we reach those children in that 1st grade level. That's where you make a difference. And then they feel good about themselves, and then they go out into the community, and then they get the right education to make a difference in your communities.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Yes, sir.
And your lights are going to be the same for your questions, okay?
Gotcha, boss.
Yes, what advice would you give teachers that have to deal with different dynamics of students? You know, you might have a student that's on the president roll and on the honor roll, but at the same time, you might have a student that has ADD, different. So what advice would you give teachers that have to deal with those dynamics every day in the classroom?
Unfortunately, the way our Bessie board has set up our curriculum right now, this Common Core, the script that these teachers have to follow, there is no room for diversion, differentiation at all. So if you've got a student on this side who is dyslexic or has issues with autism, and then you've got a student on this side that's gifted and talented, there's only one way of speaking to that whole class, and it's unfortunate. Some of your older teachers, your older, more experienced teachers, they're going to go off on a limb and they're going to do it on their own, and they'll use their instinct. But legally, they're not supposed to, because there's teaching to the test. Every day is a rehearsal for that test. That's got to stop.
Any other questions?
Got one.
Oh, here and then here. I know, right?
Okay, I appreciate, and this is a learning process for me. I'm gonna be short. My father was a teacher, and my father taught the 6th grade students that were difficult, okay? But what he taught us, we have our yours, mine, and ours family, and we generational. Me, my brother, and sister, my father taught us. We have to teach the younger ones, and when they fail, they fail. It's good at your level to be able to address the situation with the 3rd grade in prison. But I think it starts earlier.
That's my point. Yes,
and
absolutely.
These kids need to be taught how to read, how to write.
You are so correct.
When we were in the 1st grade, and I'm not joking, we used to help our father score the spelling test of his 6th grade students. Education begins from the womb, and we need to make sure that we address that. So thank you, everybody. Education is important.
And it's because of what your father taught you that you're standing here today. That you're showing an interest not only in education, but in all politics. And that's something that you don't learn at school. You learn that at home.
That's right. And one thing,
congratulations.
If they take away everything that you have, it's what you learn that gets you better. Education is necessary.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We're almost out of time for this speaker, but we do have, please be concise. We'd like to give the candidate time to answer your questions.
There's my girl. I really want to have a conversation with you. I'm so proud of you.
And I'm sure y'all could talk afterward more.
Absolutely.
Okay, my question. First, I want to say thank you, because it's good to see that we can have an educator on the board.
And I will be on the board, but I'm going to need every one of you to go vote. You have to vote.
My question is, what are you planning to do in order to continue to have that connection to the classroom? Because we know that if you're retired, every day that you spend outside of the classroom, you disconnect as things are changing, the types of children are changing, technology, all of that is changing. What are you going to do, or can you do, to continue to keep that educator connection?
Well, first off, that's fake news, okay? Because you don't disconnect when you leave that classroom. If you are a true educator, it just is something that's ingrained in you. My husband and I are beekeepers, and so I go into the classroom. First I substituted, now I go into the classroom and I teach those elementary students about the importance of honeybees. But I think that we have to keep in the classroom, and you are so right. And my goal as a Bessie board member is going to be to go in every classroom in my district. I want to be a face that they know and they don't see just the year of the election.
Okay, thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
Ms. Timala. Thank you.
And you did well pronouncing Timala.
Oh yeah, well I'm a linguist. And my mother will tell you I learned phonics. So
Good. But were you hooked on
One
it?
more.
Okay, very quick, we're gonna, you know what's gonna happen, we're gonna take you, but I'm gonna please ask everyone to please keep their questions concise, because we're running very late and the candidates later on are gonna suffer.
Will you be willing to get out of the race of last place with Mississippi and Alabama to rid ourselves of the test and start educating and teaching these students how to read, write, instead of trying to memorize the test to make our scores look better at the end of the year?
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's going to start with those lower grades, but we're going to push them in high school, and we're going to try and set them on a course to college, because what people may not be aware of is that NEAP, the national score, where we're ranked 49th in the nation, a lot of that depends on the number of students that are completing college courses. And we haven't in the past, unfortunately, really prioritized college. Students could get out of high school and get a job in the oil field right away. So now it's time to rethink that. We've got to get those kids in that to go past that high school.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Put that.
Miss Melissa will have her map on her table over here, so if any of you would like to check out her map more closely. I will say that I'm from a family of educators too. My aunt taught 38 years at the old NPMA school, and I'm going to now start putting on my school marm hat. We have got to, we expect our students to respect their time and each other, and we're going to do that for our candidates. We have our